Hi, everyone. Thank you all so much for being out here tonight. And thank you, Chandler, for being here as our guest speaker. First off, just want to welcome all the new community members. Good to see some new faces out here, as well as a lot of folks from last time. Real quick, I'm Charlie McCarthy. I'm the founder of the Veteran ETA Roundtable. So earlier this month, we launched the Veteran ETA Roundtable. It's for military veterans interested in buying a business. The initiative aims to help veterans gain insight into entrepreneurship through acquisition, ETA, through tri-weekly recorded roundtable sessions, a weekly newsletter with resources to build upon those sessions, and then finally a community where veterans can share their experiences and lessons learned to support fellow veterans in this space. So we have 10 sessions scheduled with some really terrific guest speakers. And it's going to kind of follow the timeline of a business acquisition, kind of take you from A to B. And then we're going to move on to more specific topics based on community feedback. So the way this is going to work tonight is Chandler's going to present on the search process. It's going to cover strategies and processes of searching for, evaluating, and acquiring small businesses. And then following the presentation, there's going to be a Q&A. Overall, it's going to be about a 45-minute ordeal. And since there are a lot of people on here, I think the way we're going to do it is the way we did it last time, and just post any questions in the chat. And then I'm going to moderate these questions and ask Chandler during the Q&A session. Lastly, quick disclaimer, none of this content is legal or financial advice. Okay. So now I'd like to introduce our guest speaker tonight, Chandler Reed. So Chandler is currently the CEO of Get Green NOI after successfully completing a self-funded search at 25 years old. Chandler began his real estate career with the Camden Property Trust, one of the nation's largest multifamily real estate investment trusts. Then worked for a private multifamily real estate investment firm. And then more recently, Chandler worked for a full-service commercial real estate development firm undertaking one of the largest urban neighborhood developments in the country. Chandler is the co-founder of SMB Bootcamp, which is a premier self-funded SMB acquisition accelerator. He's also the co-host of SM Bash, or you probably heard us talking about it. It's a great time. Went there last year. It's an outstanding conference of folks who love all things SMB, micro PE, and ETA. And SM Bash is going to be held in Salt Lake this April 18th to the 20th. Chandler is a graduate of the University of Florida. He has BS in finance and MS in real estate, and he currently lives in Tampa. Thanks so much, Chandler. The floor is yours.
Thanks for the introduction, Charlie. Before I get into any of this stuff, I just want to say, number one, thanks for having me. And number two, to you guys, really appreciate y'all's service. All my grandfathers and great-grandfathers served, and I have nothing but respect. And candidly, these days, y'all do not get enough respect. So I just want to say, love and respect you guys and appreciate what you've done for me and the country. So thanks for having me. I'm honored to be here. And I want this to be I want to provide as much value to y'all as I can. So, I got my stuff I want to cover, but if I'm going too fast, if y'all have any questions, feel free to stop me. I know we have a Q&A at the end, so maybe just hold until then. So I'll just hop into my background. So to be completely honest with y'all, I kind of fell into ETA in the SMB community, ass backwards. Most people learn about what searching is. ETA, you read the books, the build and buy, or buy and build, the Harvard Business Guide, all that good stuff. You listen to the podcast, Acquiring Minds, and then you're like, all right, this sounds cool. I'm going to go buy a small business, something that's not kind of floozy startup land. I'm going to go build the next Uber. It's like, no, you have a real legitimate, tangible business that's, servicing your community. Maybe it's greater than that, but it's something you can get your hands around. So kind of how, and I know, Charlie, you just mentioned my background. So my background out of school was commercial real estate and multifamily specifically. But that context will kind of help paint the story of how I got into this space. So long story short, I'll take you back to January of 2021. So I've been working from home almost for a year after COVID with that full service developer down here in Tampa, Florida, which is my hometown and where I still live today. And I'm just kind of scrolling on Twitter like a lot of people were at the time. And also, if you're not on Twitter, it's been nothing short of life-changing for me. So even if you don't think you have anything to contribute, I guarantee you do. Just get out there. Even if you want to be whatever, get on Twitter. I'm telling you, it is absolutely life changing. So bringing it back to it. So I'm sitting there scrolling Twitter and I see a retweet from a guy that I was following kind of in real estate Twitter from one of my now business partners, Sam Rosati, the kind of qualifications were, hey, I have a deal, a very active live deal here in Tampa, Florida. I'm looking for someone that has a little bit more hustle than capital, which was certainly me at the point, which is, kind of still certainly me. Knows multifamily real estate, which I knew at least a couple of years of, enough to be dangerous, and then could either relocate or is already in Tampa, Florida. So I kind of checked all these boxes. I had no idea that there's this whole vibrant community of ETA, what ETA stood for, what the hell SMB stood for. I just saw a tweet that was like, hey, if you want to buy your own business and kind of, be an entrepreneur, I have an opportunity for you. So long story short, I ended up DMing Sam. We hop on a quick phone call, quickly recognized that we're both from Tampa, both went to the University of Florida. I'm candidly surprised given how small the kind of world is down here in Tampa that we didn't know each other. But long story short, from the initial time I saw the tweet in January 2021, we ended up closing on this business together on April 30th, 2021. So about, 3.5 months or so. And I ended up bringing in a mentor of mine who's still, I consider my mentor, but he's our third business partner. One, he could write a way bigger check than I could. And two, he's kind of a multifamily kind of veteran guru, not guru, that's not the right word, but he knows everyone and their mom in the multifamily industry, which is what the business that we ended up buying service. So the business that I bought was a commercial lighting contractor that primarily focused on multifamily. So long story short, I don't know if you guys have lived in apartments, still live in apartments, et cetera. This company went to big apartment complexes and replaced basically all the lights that the owner was on the hook for with more efficient LED lighting. So number one, there's a big financial incentive there to kind of save money on your utility bills. And then number two, especially in some more, I would say, rough areas, you need a lot of light there. It's a big boon for your occupancy and try to make, the place a safe environment for families and people to live in. So my deal, which most people, and I would never recommend anyone to do what I did, but I was the right guy in the right time in the right place for it. I know the kind of running joke in this industry or in this space is like, you never really want to quote unquote buy yourself a job. Well, I kind of bought myself 10 jobs, but that's what I was kind of looking for. The business I bought was a big turnaround. There's a term out there, like key man risk. The business, when I bought it, it was barely breaking even. There's one employee, but I kind of viewed it as an opportunity to grow the business back to its former glory. The reason the seller was selling it was because he started another kind of vendor business within the multifamily space. He was doing smart home installations for apartments. So he kind of took his time, attention, resources away from this business. So I kind of viewed it as an opportunity to hey, we kind of have a playbook to bring it back to its former glory. And then also as well with my time in the previous commercial real estate firms that I worked for, I kind of saw where the puck was heading as far as the green energy, ESG, and sustainability. So I was like, all right, we're already doing these kind of quote unquote energy efficiency projects. What else is kind of hot out there? So long story short, today we're now doing lighting, we're doing EV charging stations, we're doing low flow plumbing, and we're trying to figure out solar, but that's the Wild West out there. So long story short, I have a very unconventional search process, or I really candidly wasn't even that much of a searcher, besides scrolling Twitter. But what is cool is, so outside of Get Green, what I'm currently running day to day, my other business partner, Sam, and I know Charlie, we just talked about him. So Sam has been running a boot camp basically here in Tampa, and I just got back from it today in the dinner, which is part of the event, which basically can take anyone from, I don't even know what the hell ETA or SMB stands for, all the way to hey, after the 3-day boot camp, I'm ready to hit the ground running and go search for a business. You get the playbook, and then I think the most critical thing is that We have a really solid deal team that lives, eats, breathes small business acquisition transactions and M&A. So we basically, the people that come through get teed up with everything that they need to go out and search. So through kind of osmosis, and I'm actually now helping him kind of on the biz dev side of like trying to grow the boot camp. I've learned a lot about search, best practices, worst practices, some stuff that you see on Twitter that I think is just completely ass backwards. I'm not going to name any names, but she might be a girl. I'll leave it at that. And we'll just stop it there. But yeah, so we'll just say she's a great marketer, but that's about it. Anyways, so yeah, so that's a little bit about me. Unconventional search story turned, now kind of pretty dangerous with what I know. With our boot camp this year, 13 people who have come through have acquired a business already with kind of the traditional SBA financing, have gone, self-funded route. And so, yeah, so that kind of brings us up to speed here. So I guess now I can kind of get into, and I'll talk a little bit, about our playbook that we advise people on. And I guess kind of square one is number one, the kind of critical absolute foundation before you even start going out, calling brokers, going on Kumo, going on Axial, pick your Biz by Now or Biz by Sell, pick your website. The first kind of foundational key that we teach people is you need to figure out what the hell you want your life to look like as an owner operator. Because a lot of people go out, they're chasing the shiny object, or, we call it like the hottest girl at the bar. Like everyone wants, the recurring HVAC business, or everyone wants the recurring pest control or whatever, or the commercial cleaning business, whatever. And that's all fine and great, but just think about it, as your life, once you acquire, let's say, for example, you go acquire a commercial cleaning business and you're contractually obligated to go clean a big office building one weekend, and all of your cleaning technicians call out sick. Guess who's going to go scrub some toilets and mop some floors and, do some other gross stuff that you might not necessarily want to do? That's going to be you as the owner. So the biggest thing that I think is foundational in step one, searching before you even go, into the blocking and tackling of going to find a business, acquire it, is you got to figure out what you want your life to look like as a owner operator, and then you kind of back your search into that. So kind of the three, we call it the big three, second two. We've been posting a lot about it on Twitter and on Search Finder and stuff like that. So basically, these are the kind of like the 5 criteria that you should probably have a pretty firm idea on before you go out and search. Because once you have these 5 nailed down, you kind of know exactly, all right, instead of going like spraying wide dispersion, it's kind of like a hyper focus, like, hey, I'm looking for something that it might be exactly this, or something that rhymes with this. So I would say the first 5 things that you want to identify, or the big 3, little 2 is what we call them, or second 2. Number 1, geography. And this is something I think is very overlooked. Kind of in the traditional search fund model, it's like, hey, you're raising a bunch of money, you're looking for a specific type of profile of a business, and you're looking for that across the country. It doesn't matter if it's a sweet deal up, at the USA-Canada border in North Dakota, or if it's down in Key West. If the business fits your kind of profile, you go and get it. But the kind of cool thing about self-funded searching is, especially, with people with family and stuff like that, you can kind of be flexible on your geography. So let's say, you're looking for a deal and you don't want to, or you grew up in your hometown, you still live there, you move to a city and you love it. Your wife has a bunch of friends there, your parents are there, etc. Self-funded searching, you're okay to search local. So I would say to that point, you got to figure out where you want to be living or where you want to move to. I would say call it like a 5 to 10 year horizon. So that's the first of the big 3. The second of the big 3 is the size. So size is kind of, you got to back into financial modeling, which I can share a bunch of stuff with y'all too that we share with the boot campers. I'm happy to share it with y'all. What kind of take-home pay are you looking for? You can go buy a small business, but at the end of the day, if you're clipping 50K, that might be okay for some people, or taking a 50K salary and 50K take home a profit. That might be great for you. If so, perfect. But, some people have big families and they got mouths to feed and they need to go, they got to make more than that. So the second thing is size. So you need to go back into the kind of take home pay that you're going to expect. And then that's the second criteria. And then the third is industry. And I think this is one of the most kind of important ones. I would say geography is first, because even if you find a business that you love and it's in a place that you hate or you don't want to move there, like if you go buy this business in a place that you hate, it's away from family, it's cold as hell, and you're a Florida man like myself, you're not going to have a good time doing that. So the juice is not worth the squeeze. But I would say the industry is probably the second biggest one of those. And the way that I kind of explain to people on how to know kind of what industry is best for you is, we call it like your edge. So for me, for example, I didn't know dick about light bulbs or installing light bulbs at all, but the business serviced multifamily communities, which I knew pretty well. So I'm like, okay, I can figure out the lighting side, but I'm coming with kind of an embedded book of business. I have a lot of contacts in the multifamily space. I can speak all the multifamily jargon that these people are looking for. So I kind of have an edge here versus like I would say, call it a true kind of outsider. So I think with that, you need to take a good kind of assessment of kind of your background experience, your current skills. Maybe you're really good at sales, and the business that you're looking at buying, the previous owner or the seller was a primary sales guy. So, all right, perfect. You can step in and crush it just like he was. Or maybe you're kind of not a sales guy, or you're just more of like a kind of operationally focused person. Is what kind of industries kind of suit your skill sets well. So that's a big three. So industry, geography, and size. And then once you kind of have those narrowed down, like I said, once you go out and start searching, the businesses that you're looking for doesn't necessarily have to hit all three of those perfectly, but they probably should rhyme, or they probably should be pretty close. And then the second two are, the first of the second two is the operator. So who the hell is going to run the business, right? Is it going to be you? Is it going to be your brother? Is it going to be a business partner? Is it going to be someone that's already in like a middle management type person, a vice president that's already within the business and has been there, or a general manager that's been there for a while that's going to stick around? Once you have that kind of ironed out, you can kind of back into the types of businesses that know what to communicate with brokers that you're talking to and all that stuff. And I would say, most people go back to the joke, like, you never want to buy a job. I would kind of not shy away from that, especially if this is kind of your first foray into small businesses. I would say, if anything, look forward to the opportunity to kind of getting your hands dirty and working within the business, especially if it's kind of in a foreign industry to you. Because quite candidly, you're going to get in there and you're not going to know, like most people are like, oh, I'm just going to buy the business and plug in an operator and it's that easy. But you're not even going to know like what type of operator you need, what problems they're going to face, who's the right person to kind of help you run this business. So identify who's going to operate it, whether it's you, your brother, or existing management, etc. And then lastly is the financing. So the financing, I would say most kind of self-funded searchers go down the SBA route. Most kind of searchers go down the SBA route, which I would recommend. So, but let me just stop right there and say, getting an SBA loan is a non-trivial like life event. You're going to have to personally guarantee it. You're going to have some major skin in the game. I would recommend, if anyone, and this is something, again, going back to how good I think Sam's content is, and I just didn't know that people are doing this without it, but if you're going down the SBA route, I would highly recommend getting a quality of earnings report done on your business, because the bank, they do a good job on underwriting themselves, but there's always room for error. And the last thing you want to do is personally guarantee, a multi-million-dollar SBA loan, and come to find out, the EBITDA that you bought, the multiple of the business on is actually like 500K less than you thought. And on day one, you're fucking underwater. That is not a good day at the office. It's happened to a lot of people, and I would highly recommend against that. So, but for example, in my business, and again, it had a lot of hair on it, but I didn't get an SBA loan on my deal. My business was a true turnaround. So the way we structured my deal was a 25% cash down payment with 75% earnout. And you might be thinking, oh, that's so sick. Like, how'd you structure a deal like that? And the reason the deal was like that is because the business was fucking, it took a special type of person to go by and take this thing down. So yeah, so that is, before you even go out and start searching, that is kind of the 5 things you want to nail down. You want to nail down the size of the business that you need, and you can back into that by like how much money you need to take home at the end of the day to feed you, your family, your financial goals, etc. You need to nail down the geography. So, maybe you want to make a move. So you want to go, let's say you live in Iowa and you want to make a move to Charleston, South Carolina. Go, start looking at businesses down in Charleston, South Carolina, or some other markets that you're interested in, or maybe even in your hometown. 3, the industry. So maybe, you had some sort of experience in the industry, or you have some transferable skills that bode well for that industry. And then find who's going to operate it and how you're going to finance it. And then once you kind of have those 5 kind of criteria down, then and only then is when you need to start. Let me backtrack a little bit. So what we there's two types of kind of search, right? There is the proprietary method where you're reaching out to business owners directly. And then there's intermediary. So basically through a business broker. What we tell all the searchers that come through SM Bootcamp is you need to, especially for your first deal, I would all but forget about proprietary search. Everyone's talking about, oh, I want the sexy off-market deal. You're going to get a much better price on it. And I'm going to tell you right now that like 90% of the kind of quote unquote off-market deals that you're going to find, and even if the seller's like, oh yeah, I'm sure I'd love to sell, and you get into LOI with them, if he's not being represented by a broker, it's going to be a really tough transaction. And I would say like 90% of the quote unquote off-market deals for self-funded searchers end up falling through, and that translates to just lost money and lost time for you. So the highest and best use of your time, in my opinion, is once you have that criteria down, go start hitting up as many brokers as you can who either 1 are located in the geography that you're searching in primarily, and then 2, identify some brokers that either have active listings in the types of businesses that you're looking for, or in the past have sold the type of business that you're looking for. And I would say the most important thing on that is you just got to get on the phone and just tell your story. And even if they don't have a deal for you today, keep following up with them, because 3 months from now, they might say, oh shit, I remember Charlie called me. He's looking for a commercial cleaning business of this size, located in Charleston, South Carolina, or pick your market. I know that he is willing and able to go pursue this deal. He's going to be one of my first calls. So that is that. And then, so that's kind of, you got to identify the types of businesses you're looking for, and then use brokered channels to go with your criteria. Go tell them your elevator pitch, kind of, hey, here's what I'm looking for. Here's the businesses I'm looking for. Here's the size I'm looking for, et cetera. And then once you're doing that, hopefully, and it's going to take some time, you need to get some reps in, because candidly, I would say the kind of what your ideal goal in the self-funded search, at least kind of in our opinion, is you're not searching for a business. Obviously, I know that's the end goal, but the goal of your search is to build kind of like a robust pipeline and system that is so good that it's inevitably going to lead you to that business that you end up closing on. So kind of like the focus on the process and the outcomes are inevitable. I think that was shit. It's a famous football coach, but he's like, hey, if we just take care of business, the score is not going to matter. So kind of the same thing here. And then the next thing, so let's say you have your criteria, you hit the broker channel, you get to a deal and you get a signed LOI. So I would say the loneliest part about search is the kind of search phase, right? No one's going to help, drop a business onto your lap. You got to go out and search and find it. But I can promise you, as soon as you find that business and it's a good one, people are going to come out of the freaking woodworks to come help you. And primarily, and this is something that we do in our boot camp. So once you have a good LOI signed, and this is something we really harp on, you don't need to be a legal expert. You don't need to go do your own purchase agreements and operating agreements. You don't need to be a Q of E expert. You don't need to be an SBA expert, an insurance expert, healthcare and benefits expert. There are enough people now online, and the space is really getting big, to where you just need to be the quarterback of your deal and kind of go hire great position players to help you go close that deal. So what I mean by that is you have that deal tied up now, you have a signed, agreed upon LOI, go get a quality of earnings, go start talking to SBA lenders, go hit up some legal groups and get them all signed up and let them go to work. And your sole goal is to keep momentum going on the deal and lean on them, the experts in the space and their individual niches, to get the deal done. And then hopefully it goes well. And then the next thing you know, you close on the business, and then the real fun starts. That's when the shit gets real. I would say, as far as transition goes, some of the best practices that I would have is, you only have one chance to make a good first impression. So you need to be prepared to come in on day one. Ideally, you're meeting the team before, so you can kind of start identifying some of the key employees of, like, hey, I know this guy's gonna be critical. I need this guy on my side, because I've seen so many, especially some of the private equity buyers that come in, these big hoity-toity white collar people that go in and buy, a blue collar HVAC business. And on day one, the employees fucking hate them. They're a bunch of suits. They don't want to work for them. And that's the last thing you want. So really take some time to meet with the whole team, get to know them individually, not just what they do in the office, but outside of the office. Really try to win them over, and assure them that, a part of the big reason that you bought the business was because of how great of a team that the previous seller had assembled. And then you can really get, off on the right foot. And then I would also recommend probably not making too many drastic changes on day one. So I know, especially in blue collar kind of service or manufacturing type businesses, the only changes that some of the guys that I've talked to are making are some small stuff, like getting new uniforms to the team, refreshing and repairing some of the tools that have been broken and stuff. Some kind of low hanging fruit stuff that's going to build rapport with your team, gain some trust and confidence with them, and really just get the relationship off on the right foot. But, from there's a billion different ways how you can operate a business. The one that I use in my business and what I recommend to people is the EOS system, or it's a book called Traction. I'm sure, if you pay attention to this space, you guys have probably heard of it. I think it's probably one of the better ones to run for small businesses. It's just simple. It makes sense. Employees get it. And it's really good. So it can kind of help keep things in line. So I know that was kind of a lot, and I kind of went in hyper speed there, but Charlie, anything that I should kind of dive deeper into, or that I kind of glance over? That's kind of it I would say in a nutshell.
No, that was great, Chandler. I mean, I think honestly, one of the most helpful aspects of this will just be to see what kind of questions we have from the group. So unless you have anything else to say, I think we should just open up the Q&A.
Yeah, I would say just the biggest thing, and I cannot overemphasize this enough, is you don't want to buy a living hell. You want to make sure that the business that you're buying is affording not only you, but your family the kind of quality of lifestyle that you're looking for. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you, you're going to buy a business, it's all going to be sunshine and rainbows, but you need to make sure that the business that you're buying is, all of them are going to have problems, right? But you need to make sure that the business that you're buying have the problems that either one, you want to take on, or two, you're well suited to take on. And then once you have that kind of like ideal life as an owner operator settled in, back everything into that. So
Awesome. Thanks so much, Chandler. So yeah, first question, wanting to ask if you could expand more on establishing broker relationships, especially for first-time searchers.
yes,
Good call on traction.
yeah. So that is a big one, because to be just straight up candid with y'all, most business brokers, unless they kind of specialize in helping self-funded searchers, which are a few out there, but most of them just have a bad distaste for self-funded searchers. And that's because the certainty to close, which is all brokers at the end of the day really give a shit about, right? Because if they don't close a deal, they don't get paid. So the kind of show me the incentives and I'll show you the outcomes. So you need to do a really good job on these broker calls of, one, proving to them that you're legit. And again, going back into it, I know the first thing we talked about was having your kind of your big three, little two, the big three, second two ironed down. So if you know that already, that just puts you light years ahead of, just imagine a searcher who gives the broker call. It's like, hey, I'm Chandler. I've heard about this ETA stuff. I'm interested. Let me know if you have any businesses that, come across your desk. It's like, okay, that's not going to bode you well starting that relationship off. Versus like, hey, I'm Chandler. I'm a self-funded searcher. I'm looking for at least $1 million SDE B2B services-based business in Charleston, South Carolina. That's within the, home services, or I just said B2B, within the kind of multifamily real estate or manufacturing industries. Here's what I'm looking for. I'm this size. I have some equity to put down myself. I have some investors who have told me that they're willing to back me. And I'm already in discussions with some lenders who are willing to back me. And so just think about those two kind of cases. Who do you think is going to get the first call when a broker has a deal that comes across his desk that kind of, fits a self-funded searcher profile? It's going to be the guy that has a compelling elevator story, knows what the hell he's looking for, because that person has a lot higher chance of closing, which means a lot higher chance of that broker getting paid on the deal.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Okay. Second question is, what deal structures have you seen that help mitigate, one, key man risk, and two, customer concentration risk?
Yeah. So the unfortunate thing with the SBA loans is that you are not able to structure an earnout per se when you're using an SBA loan. Like, it's got to be, if you're getting any sort of seller financing, which an earnout is, it's got to be a true term structured seller financing piece. So whether that is a 5-year term at a fixed interest rate, and the first 2 years are interest only, or now a big thing is the full standby note, which is basically you're making no payments for X amount of years, and then you have a big balloon payment at the end, which still accrues interest. Sorry. Yeah. So the customer concentration risk, the best way to mitigate that is people now, it's called a forgivable seller note. So you could structure your seller note still in those same terms as we're talking about, but now I guess people have, forgivable is not, an in word right now. Now it's called a contingent seller note. So just some non-trivial legalese for y'all. So stupid, but it's the same shit. So basically what that seller note would look like, a contingent seller note, is, hey, your business is currently doing this. I know you might have some customer concentration risk. If revenue should dip below this amount of level, or hey, this customer stops giving us business, then either the whole thing or a certain percentage of it or some of it is going to be wiped clean off the table, because we entered into this agreement as kind of an arm's length transaction, and you've kind of promised me, hey, this client is going to be here to stick around. And again, I'm not a lawyer. Again, like I was saying, quarterback a deal. Get a good lawyer that's going to structure something like this for you. Just plugging kind of our own deal team, the S&B Law Group, which if you're on Twitter, you've probably heard of them. They're our go-to legal team. where we kind of recommend, we don't obviously like make anyone go to them, but we say, hey, if you want to get your shit done right, use SMB Law Group. So that is the best way to mitigate customer concentration risk, is with that kind of contingent seller note, or contingent promissory notes, as Austin just dropped in. And then the other one is key man risk. So again, with the business I bought, it had literally one employee. So talk about fucking ultimate key man risk. If that guy left, we were fucked. Sorry to cuss, but I figured you guys have heard it before. But yeah, if that guy left, we're done for. And so what we structured with our seller is a kind of stay bonus that the seller would pay to the key employees, which is totally kosher. The SBA will allow that. And that's something I highly recommend. Let's say the seller is leaving and, you know, his longtime general manager is kind of the crux of the operations. The seller's been out of it. And if that guy leaves, you might be screwed. So you can structure in, number one, at least in the deal term, you can structure in, hey, the seller is going to pay this guy, you know, $1,000 a quarter for the next 2 years, as long as he stays on board with you and helps you out. So that's the way you can do it. And then the other way, which you kind of have to underwrite and budget for yourself, is like, hey, on day one, these key employees are getting, you know, a 5% bump in pay, and they're getting some sort of like increased compensation, like a variable compensation structure where as the business does well, they do well as well. So you can kind of get creative with it. But yeah, so at least contractually, the way to do that is to have a seller offer be contractually obligated to pay a bonus to the key mans remaining to stay on board.
Okay, great. Another question: how much capital do you recommend a self-funded searcher allocate towards due diligence, QE, legal fees, broker fees, etc.?
Yeah, so that is a great question. Again, it's kind of contingent. A lot of those fees that you see are kind of like, a lot of them, you know, will be like 1% of the deal size, whatever. So once you kind of have like a size of a deal that you're looking to take down, then you can kind of back into it. I would say kind of like at the very low end, call it like 30K or so, or maybe like 20K, to be honest with you. At the high end, you know, it might look something like 75, but that's just as big, you know, it depends on what kind of deal size you're taking down. I will say, and I know that number might be a little bit scary, but the good thing about that is a lot of these fees, transaction fees that you get, or that you incur as part of taking down these deals or you can roll that into your SBA loan. So you might be coming out of pocket for it for like a month or two, but you kind of retroactively get that paid back in your SBA loan. And the other thing you can do is too, like, especially for veterans, and I know, and I'm happy to share this resource with y'all. We do have a pretty robust investor database that are looking to back self-funded searchers, and specifically veteran self-funded searchers. And I know I didn't mention this, but of all the people that we see come through the boot camps, the top people I think that are most suited to go and do the ETA route are veterans. You have the leadership experience, you know how to get shit done. And a lot of these, you know, white collar, high finance people that live in Excel land and Wall Street coming into this blue collar business world get fucking eaten alive by it. They don't know how to work well with people. They don't know any sort of leadership outside of a boardroom. So yeah. I think I had answered
That's
that
terrific.
question.
Yeah. And then, I got a question to me. For pipeline, you know, kind of back of the napkin math, do you have any kind of simple math that you use when you're kind of creating that pipeline and that funnel to evaluate, you know, possible businesses to, you know, try to go under LOI?
Yeah, so I would say, actually, this is a slide that we just covered today in the boot camp. I would say probably at like a minimum, you want to look at like probably like 100 deals, like model 100 deals, look at 100 deal sims, because number one, you don't necessarily know what a good deal is, right? So you might look at 10 deals and you think, oh shit, like I've looked at 10 deals already. This one in particular is looking really well. But little do you know that one deal that you thought was great got passed over by 10 strategic investors, a couple other searchers, And it's kind of like sloppy seconds, for lack of a better term. And what one man's trash, I guess, is another man's treasure. So I would say if you can look at thoughtfully, look at 100 deals, underwrite them, sign the NDAs, get the SIMs, look at them, evaluate them hard, have the calls with the brokers, maybe even have some secondary calls with the sellers. 100 thoroughly looked at deals will probably lead to like 3 submitted LOIs. And I would say on the LOI front, don't submit any more than 1 LOI at a time. There's some people that go blast out like 5. I think that's a good way, especially if you're going to be maybe a serial acquirer, to burn your reputation and your name, especially with brokers who are like, oh, this guy had his LOI signed up with me and he backed out because he had like 2 more out or 1 more out and he went with one of those. So if you look at 100 deals, you can expect to probably submit 2 to 3 LOIs, and deals die, especially in the small kind of business world. Sellers get cold feet. Shit happens. You get a QOV on a deal that you signed an LOI on, and the seller like materially misrepresented the amount of money he was making. Then you have to go retrade him, and he's not willing to take that price. So like deals die. So it's important to focus on volume, but not for the sake of volume. You need volume for the sake of knowing like, hey, what is actually a good deal and what is not. And then of those 100 looked at deals down to 3 potentially signed LOIs, I would say you could probably expect to get 1 great business that you end up closing.
Great. Yeah, we're gonna have Elliot Holland on down the road, and I've heard him on
Elliot's
some
great.
podcasts talk about just like he's like it's straight up fraud.
It's literally,
this is so it's interesting.
wow, especially with the the PPP loans and the COVID and the funky revenue spikes, and it's kind of been a wonky few years, and yeah, there's been some serious shit in that front. So I highly recommend, if you're going the SBA route, which I would highly recommend you do. You don't want to buy the fucking headache nightmare business like I did. But I was, like you mentioned, Charlie, I was 25 and single and no kids at the time, so I had nothing but time and energy to go bang my head against the wall. But yeah, get a QOV if you're getting SBA loan, please.
Perfect. All right. I think we have time for one more question. If anyone has one, I got a bunch, so I can definitely keep going, but see if anyone pops in. Okay. Yeah. So talking about online platforms, I know you mentioned that earlier. Kind of how do you think about that as far as, using the biz buy sell, all the kind of big ones versus reaching out to kind of your mom and pop broker, depending on what kind of geography search you're going for?
Yeah, so I think the kind of aggregator sites, like they're the listing sites, I think they're a great source to get reps in. To be completely candid with you, I think that those types of deals hit those types of markets because they got passed over by smart people. It's the same thing with like commercial real estate or even single family residential housing real estate. Like the only ones that kind of hit the market have probably been passed over by smart people. So you need to like proceed with caution. But on the flip side of that, I know a ton of people who have bought in businesses off those websites and have fucking crushed with them. So it's not like a one size fits all answer. Why we recommend going through brokers is because if you can build a rapport with a broker, you know exactly what you're looking for. He knows or she knows exactly what you're looking for. And they like you enough. That business that they might have necessarily listed on Biz Buy Sell or Kumo or Axial or pick your one, they might take that straight to you before it even hits those listing websites because they know that you're the right person for this. So that is my take on that. I would say proceed with caution, but you can certainly get some great reps in, talking about going back to the building up to that 100 deals looked at. Yeah, go underwrite the shit out of all this because you're going to get a lot of good reps in.
Okay. Got a flurry of quick questions here. Can you talk more about why you prefer a broker to proprietary search and why not a blend?
Yeah, so brokered because those deals are actionable, right? Like those sellers are ready to sell. They signed up a broker that they're going to be paying a chunk of money to get this business sold for them. So these sellers are motivated, they're willing, they're ready, they're able, they want to get the job done, or they want to sell their business. If you go proprietary route, I think one of the biggest things too is kind of price expectations and just kind of facilitating the deal. Like the broker is not just some gatekeeper that is keeping you from buying this business from a seller. they, at least good brokers, provide a ton of value in the transaction. They help with the due diligence. They help get information to your deal team. They kind of help everything flow. And then what they also do is help get the seller kind of to come down to earth on their price expectations. Some guy that might, his earnings for, might be like $100K STE business. He's like, fuck it. I want $5 million for this thing. The broker's gonna be like, dude, you're smoking crack. You're probably going to get like 300 to 500K for this, maybe. So I just think, and the other thing, the kind of underlying theme to all that, especially for self-funded searchers, is, time is everything. Time for y'all and time for me when I think I'm going to go do a self-funded search here. And probably call it the next few years once I get shit wrapped up here with this current business, but you're fronting your out-of-pocket expenses. Let's say you're going to search full-time, you're quitting your day job, you're living off expenses. You don't have time to go try to establish a relationship with that guy that who owns a business down the road. He's not willing and able to sell yet, but maybe give me a year. You got to go search and find a business that is really ready to go, that is actionable today. Not to say that, proprietary search is necessarily bad, but to had the highest % chance of closing on a great business, we recommend going on the intermediary route. And also going back to it as well, just having a broker there to help facilitate the transaction is key and paramount to getting a deal closed.
Awesome. And one last one, promise. Why and who should attend boot camp in Tampa? If you read the 3-Man books and attended conferences and great sessions like this, thanks, Matt. Why should you consider it given the cost of coming?
Yes. And so I talked to Sam about this today. And so Sam has done in the past, just straight up, he's done one boot camp that was strictly just veteran guys that were interested in ETA. We probably have a couple of veterans that come through in ETA themselves. And so number one, just touching the price for a second, and I've gotten kind of permission to share this with y'all. If y'all are interested in joining the boot camp, we have a special kind of veterans, friends and family discount, if you want to call it. It's going to be the $29.95 versus it's going to be $4K next year for non-veterans. So it's a pretty substantial discount. If you're interested in joining, like I said, we think veterans are the perfect people for ETA, given their kind of skill set and experience and leadership abilities. They're literally the perfect people to go buy and step into these businesses, number one. Number two, I think primarily it is kind of the actionableness that comes out of our boot camp. Number one, you can read all the podcasts, you can listen to all the book, or listen to all the podcasts, read all the books. At the end of the day, you're just going to be stuck with a bunch of information in your mind, and you're trying to piecemeal it and put it together. And probably might make a mistake here or two, or come to the boot camp. You're going to learn literally zero fluff, step-by-step playbook. Number one, on how to go out, identify a business, going back to it, that fits your lifestyle and your goals that you're looking for. Two, how to search, how to go find that deal. And then finally, and I think it's the most important thing that kind of separates us from a lot of other similar programs out there, et cetera, is our deal team. So like I said, we're not telling you to become an expert in QOB or legal or lending or whatever. We have the people in place that, number one, want to work with self-funded searchers. They're not like a big upper market person that happens to do small business acquisition, M&A shit on the side. These people live, breathe, eat, and love this shit. That's all they do. So they're specialists in this. And we plug you right in. Obviously, you don't have to use them, but they provide, discounted pricing to people that come through the boot camp, and even an extra added bonus. So if you guys have seen Bruce Marks on Twitter, he's an SBA lender with First Bank of the Lake. For example, he does kind of special pricing for veterans. Like you get, I think it's either 25 basis points or 50 basis points locked off your interest rate or the spread on the interest rate, and a discounted kind of origination fee. So that's the reason why you might want to come. And so not only kind of the special pricing, not only for the boot camp but for your deal team, but also the kind of just actionableness of our playbook and of our process. You can take it from, going from, hey, whoops, did I lag out there? Oh, sorry, my computer just messed up there. You can go from, hey, day one of boot camp to you leave boot camp on day 4, and you can hit the ground running with a playbook that you can go out and search and find a business quickly. And time is of the essence in these self-funded deals. So that's my pitch on it. I don't want to sell you guys on it. I just want to tell you, I think we have one of the best products out there. And if you guys want to end up coming, we'd love to have you. And, like I said, I think veterans are probably one of the most well-suited people that pursue this path. So
Awesome.
and I did see one more question. I do not have a secret guy account on Twitter. What you see is what you get with me on Twitter. I'm Chandler Reed SMB. I don't hide behind the shadows, but I get, there's some reasons why people have anon. I get it, but there's a lot of shady anons out there, so be very careful about that.
Thank you. That was awesome. Thanks, Chandler. And yeah, I mean, I've spoken to a lot of people that have gone through the boot camp, and just they've had terrific things to say. And what you and Sam are doing is really an awesome product. And thank you so much for your time. I'm just gonna put in. I have the survey, a quick survey for take about 10 seconds, and then the Slack channel for anyone wants to hop on that with the veteran ETA Slack channel that's in the chat. But other than that, thank you all so much for your time, and thank you, Chandler, for coming and sharing all this great insight. And I'll follow up with some of those resources you mentioned. So thanks again.
Yeah. Just in closing, I put my email in there. Any questions? Oh, chill. I didn't put my cell number in there. Any questions you guys have for me, hit me up, please. Like I mentioned, it's an honor to be here. I love and respect the help out of you guys, and I really appreciate y'all. And anything I can do to help you out now, in the future, a year from now, please don't hesitate to hit me up. I'd love to help out however I can. So appreciate y'all.
Perfect. Yeah, Chandler, I don't think it's in the group. I don't see it.
Really?
Yeah.
I sent a direct message to Eric's note taker. Whoops.
Good for Eric.
39006. Cool. And Charlie, I'll send it to you. I mean, you have my email, so I'll send you all my contact information. Best
Great,
ways to
yeah.
reach out, all that stuff.
Yeah, I'll be following up with some resources and stuff after the session, and a recorded for everyone who wasn't able to make it. So thanks again, man. We appreciate it.
You got it. And yeah, I'll follow up with you too. I got some of the templates and stuff that I mentioned, the resources. It's y'all's. So happy to help out however I can, and let me know how I can help out. Yeah.
Awesome. Have a good night.
All right. Appreciate y'all.
Take care.